It's the Regular Expressions podcast. Join Noah Heldman and Ben Griswold as they talk about technology, consulting, and life. In episode 7, Noah and Ben talk about how to gain trust with clients.
Hello, Noah.
Hi, Ben. Happy Friday.
Yeah, it is. Thanks so much. I find that I say happy Friday a little too much and I want to kill it. I've got to figure a way how to just avoid it.
What if you just said it on Wednesday? Would that help?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Just super optimistic. I'm 2 days ahead. I don't know. Sure.
We last time we chatted, we talked about how you can spot a good consultant. And what we did is we kind of pitched this episode where we're more, focused on the consultant and what they should be doing their first days on the job. They move into an organization, they're, ready to roll. What should they be doing first? What do you think?
It's so simple to me. Just be trustworthy. Like, we can end the episode right now, but seriously, it's amazing how few people in this position do things that are so basic to earn someone's trust. It's about doing what you say you're going to do, right? It's really quite straightforward, and yet it's not. It's not quite that simple because everyone is different. Everyone's looking for different things. So we do have enough to talk about here today, and it'll be good to get into it. But ultimately, if you are trustworthy to the people that you're trying to build trust with, you've done your job. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. I think of trust in a couple of different ways. When you're building trust, you're actively listening. You've got quick follow through. You're on time for meetings. These are all things that demonstrate consistency, really being part of your time with others while you're at the organization. And one of the things that I share with a lot of consultants is just try to control what you can control. There's a lot of surprises when it comes to consulting. And if you can get to a meeting 5 minutes early, if you can kind of control that email or that status that goes out because you double check it, you do a little bit of review ahead of time, that's where that credibility and consistency comes in, and probably give you just an opportunity to seize those things that, are right there in your hands.
And I think based on that, it's also about that awareness of how your communication might get out there. That could be anything from an email you send, which, sure, you want to be responsive, you want to be professional, make sure it represents you well and addresses what the customer is asking for, but then recognize that email might get forwarded on to 3 other people. And if we're thinking ahead as consultants, that trust can expand to the different people that will be engaged as a result of you talking to that first person. So it could turn into a meeting, a phone call, a series of emails, a proposal, a team that gets built, whatever it is. If you're thinking in terms of what's the downstream impact of every communication I have, whether written or verbal, in a meeting setting, in a team setting, one-on-one, whatever it is, if you're out to happy hour with the customer after, all of those things are opportunities to build or break trust. It's pretty powerful.
Yeah. When I think of trust, I think about, setting appropriate expectations and then meeting those or exceeding those expectations. So really early on, hopefully before you get into the organization, you really should understand what the client motivations are. And that might mean, working with various stakeholders to again and again and again, just keep cycling back on what are the expectations here? What am I going to deliver? Which is the only way that you can really engender that trust as well, right? It'd be great if you come in and you nail, challenge 1, 2, and 3. But if that wasn't really on the docket or what's in the minds of those stakeholders, you miss the mark in their minds.
Whether you intended to or not, you set me up for a perfect story of how I utterly failed at exactly what you just described many years ago.
Yeah.
I was consulting with someone else at an organization where we had been in there pretty embedded for a solid year plus. Really felt like part of the team. We were working on core things with everyone from the technical team up through senior leadership. And we started to see some problems and wanted to bring some attention to those problems. So we started documenting things and really, really carefully built up this case of all the things that were broken in the organization. And really diplomatic, really thoughtful, or so we believed, in really structuring a professional document. And I think it was 30 or 40 pages, really nicely formatted, well written, triple checked. Yeah. But it was something that the customer did not ask for and were very unhappy to receive, because all it did was show the problems in the organization when they were really focused on what could they do to set it up to potentially be acquired, right? So it's like, here's a document that's now circulating around the organization with probably some missed assessment of what was really going on, because we were looking at it from the technical surface, not from how does this organization run and succeed, and what are the things that you might have to skip past in order to continue to succeed and grow in the eyes of potential investors. Yeah, sure, I know that now, but back at the time, we were nitpicking on some specific development practices, some of which are important, some of which were clearly not relevant to the business vision. Anyway, learned from that one and moved on.
No doubt. I was smiling because I remember that. There is that, just, kind of leading with the best intent. And I discovered pretty early as well that, it's really easy to shake your head and think, what the heck is leadership doing around here? But more likely than not, they actually have an awareness of many more things than you do. And they probably are making the right moves. They're just not apparent at the time. I think that's kind of an important point as well, Noah, just what you were saying about putting together that proposal of ideas. And I think there's this need to, just take a step back and maybe observe the culture before prescribing solutions, right? Like in this case, it's noticing how decisions are made, how people may or may not feel safe to openly share, and what that might actually mean when you, bring up technical problems, which are often like really people problems in disguise. And so you've got to kind of recognize, not only the culture, but you have to start building your alliances, and negotiating that success up front. I have a feeling if you had a relationship with the person that you were sending, all of these very legit consulty, like this is what you could do to improve things to, it probably would have landed a little bit better, because they would have understood your intent. And maybe it wouldn't have been such a quick, like, what's this all about response.
Right. It just comes across as a criticism rather than a collaborative partnership that you're trying to be honest and be open about what you've discovered. And it's also the kind of thing that you don't throw over the fence to the highest levels of the organization, as we did with zero context. Lots of lessons learned, but you did bring up a little earlier, this idea of delivering value, and we've talked about this, as soon as you can. You want to deliver value immediately as a consultant. That's a double-edged sword, because you have to know that the thing you're delivering is valuable. And just based on the story we were just talking about, you might do this workup of incredible PowerPoint or a document, but and you deliver it because that's the value you think you're providing, but it doesn't land well, because it wasn't something somebody really needed. So sometimes delivering that value immediately is demonstrating that active listening that we've talked about multiple times, being responsive, like you mentioned a few minutes ago. That is a kind of value that is unfortunately kind of rare. So we want to make sure that the value is in listening, in understanding how we might fit in not overstepping. I think a lot of consultants are brought in to think, I'm here because I'm the outside expert and I'm going to fix and change everything. Sometimes the right fix is no fix at all. And you have to be really, really aware of what's going on in the company to see that. So delivering value is complex.
One of my favorite things is when a consultant, new employee, what have you, comes into an organization, onboarding, right? Setting up all of your tools, getting access to system A, meeting the stakeholders, etc. Like it can be a playbook that other people could follow. And oftentimes orgs don't have that playbook. They don't have the onboarding docs. And that's just a really ripe opportunity to give some value right back to a company on day 1 or 2 or 17, however long it takes to onboard with an organization.
If you're in a technical position on a development team, for example, and one of the first things you have to do is set up your development environment as a consultant, the best thing you can do is follow along all those steps, and anything that doesn't work exactly as you expect or as is laid out, you make a note. And maybe you don't just drop it in their official document and publish it. Depends on the relationship. But you say, hey, I went through this process. I noticed a few things came up that were a little bit different. I took my own notes. I had a couple issues, ran into some errors, looked up some troubleshooting info, and that got me through it. I have all that documented. Do you want me to put that into the official README or developer setup document, whether it's in the wiki or it's in the code base, whatever it is? That's pretty valuable. The flip side of that is we had someone do exactly that, came in on his first day. This is a long time ago, before I knew you, came into our company day 1 and wrote that manual from scratch. There was no real developer onboarding manual for that company.
Sure.
And at the end of his first day, just took it upon himself to get everything set up and documented and delivered. I think it was a 40-page Word document with every single step it took to get himself set up that he wanted to provide as value to the other developers. Really, really impressive. Left an incredible stamp on expectations of first day in that org. And then unceremoniously found out that the guy couldn't actually code. He could document setup really, really well, but he couldn't code, so he didn't last very long. But his manual far outlasted him. Anyway, that was valuable.
Yeah. One of the things I want to make sure we sneak in here before we're done is just ways in which one can accelerate their own learning, right, within the organization. And there's a book, it's The First 90 Days, that really touches upon this nicely. It's a structured plan. It isn't just going into an organization and just figuring things out. You go, like, you put together a plan where it's, I am going to meet person A, B, and C. I'm going to understand the goals of the organization, but also individuals. I'm going to map out those informal networks that are built, and I'm going to make sure that I'm learning from everyone, whether it be their language, whether it's how long have they been their business language, how long they've been at the organization, who they can influence or not, just so that you get kind of that level set. But it takes intention in order to do that. So I really like that a lot. And in addition to accelerating the learning, I find that you've got to be pretty vulnerable as well. Like, it takes asking dumb questions as a consultant, admitting you don't know what that acronym is that they keep tossing around, showing humility. That's going to build up trust, but it also is going to accelerate your learning, which is going to allow you to put 2 and 2 together and make, after some time of observing, like some really great observations, and plus the solutions that go with it. So I think that, that's where it's at for me, is how quickly can you start learning and be a little bit vulnerable as well along the way.
Yeah, and I find that's a natural place for me to be. I'm pretty comfortable in that place, but I also want to make sure that it's not just all vulnerability and all like, no, I don't know about that either. There's this blend of confidence and humility that's interesting to strike, because they want to know they're bringing in somebody who can solve this problem. But if they also know that that person is a human being who understands that most of the things that go on in an organization are about human to human communication, and sure, the processes and the tools that support them, that's going to get you a lot farther. And I think what's been really successful in my case, and I'm thankful that it comes pretty naturally, is I really like to adapt to the style of the person that I'm working with. And that means I can be a bit of a chameleon if I need to be, to make sure I understand my stakeholders and their motivations, kind of stepping into their shoes, empathizing, and learning the way they like to communicate. If someone wants to be super concise and I'll drop them a 3-word email, great. We move quickly. If someone wants to go very detailed and long emails, I can match that too. And I find that familiarity tends to build trust as well.
Yeah. I have this thing just floating in my head. I feel like I've got to get it out, because it's one of my favorite things. And I do feel that it's the umbrella over it all for me. It's that, think along the lines of partnership rather than a transactional time that you're spending with the client. Like, go in right away. It's like, I am your partner. I'm your trusted advisor, your trusted partner. And I think it's going to go a long way. Yeah.
And you'll learn a lot from them in that example too. If you're really a partner, there's just a ton of give and take, which is essential for that kind of success, versus a transaction, which is kind of one-sided.
Yeah. Well, this was great, Noah. I'm glad we had some time today.
That was fun. Happy current day of the week to you, and have a great next weekend, whenever that is.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Bye.